Hey folks, in today's video I'm going to do a detailed overview and review discussion of how I've been finding the Sony A7R Mark II. I've been using this throughout Bhutan, taken thousands of frames so I can give you a much more detailed opinion than the top line stuff you see when something first hits the market. I generally use Nikon, so I'm going to be comparing it to that, my D810, telling you why I decided to buy this one, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, what I hope they come out with in the future generation, and showing you images I've taken with it. So as I said, I'm currently in Bhutan. I'm in the capital Thimphu now. If you're interested to join me for my 2016 tour, check out the link that's on the screen now. So the A7R Mark II, obviously it's excited a lot of people. It lit the world up with the specs when it first came out, and it's also incredibly polarizing, So look, this, I have to get it all out on the table. I use the D810 99% of the time, and that's why I'm comparing these two head to head. I know there's other comparisons that could be made. If that comparison isn't of use to you, then, skip on to the next video. But, 36 megapixel of the D810, and that's what I'm currently recording on, versus the 42 odd of the Sony A7R. There are people considering them, and the fact that you can adapt all kinds of lenses to use on the Sony is of interest to people. So let me run through the things I like first, then dislike, then hope they come up with next. So likes. It is portable, there's arguments once you add a grip and then the lenses and this and that, then it's no longer portable. Overall, as a system, I find it generally is, and there's something about using mirrorless that helps you pack more nimbly. I would go out with just two lenses and a small flash, and then, even with a couple of spare batteries, it was fitting into just a small little messenger, and I made it work. I can honestly say 75 or 80% of the shots I've taken on this whole trip were taken with the A7R II, the 16-35, and then the 85mm Bardus from Carl Zeiss. So it is portable. I love that it's high res and shoots 4K. I'm trying to move my video workflow to 4K. This one isn't because I'm shooting on the D810 and it will do 1080 only. So that's something great about it. And I do think it's got great image quality coming off the sensor. For what I'm doing, the 4K is high enough quality. If you were getting really serious about it, then you'd go for the A7S Mark II, or for something, really professional, a standalone video camera that's filming 4K. The full silent mode works great when you're in natural lighting situations. When you're in artificial lighting situations, it's really nasty. Let me just make sure I've got it turned on. Take a shot back at the camera, and you can't hear anything. By turning off the autofocus confirm as well, it's completely silent. Let me just show you, this is what happens in some lighting. When the frequency's no good, you get that banding through the shot. But when you're using natural lighting, that doesn't occur, and it can be really handy. I don't use it to take sneaky shots when people don't know that I'm doing it at all. But when you're, for example, I was at a festival and I was shooting inside a temple, photography was allowed, but having the clink, clink, clink as you're shooting away, even in a quiet mode, can be distracting, and you can draw attention to yourself. Being able to, I'm not doing it from the hip hiding it, but to be able to fire away and take shots is really handy without interrupting the moment, and it means you can get more than one shot without them realizing how many you're taking, which again can help you blend a little bit easier, which I really have appreciated this through the trip. And I've got it set up now on my custom 4 button to turn the silent shooting on and off, because there's some things that I'll get to in the dislikes that don't really work with silent shooting. Another one, I really like the black and white processing coming off this. When I'm shooting RAW and JPEG, the JPEGs are coming out really nice using the monochrome setting with very minimal adjustments to them. I really like how that comes out. Of course, this whole review, all of my reviews of course, but this one in particular is really subjective. So for my taste, I like the way the black and white looks. I really like the handling with the added grip. I think the Sony grip that comes with this one is really nicely made. The buttons are all in a nice position. It takes 2 batteries in it. Haven't found any flex or wobble. I find it really nice and stable, and then adds that extra space when you're shooting in both directions. The battery life when you're shooting stills is acceptable. I don't use the rear screen too much, and I'm composing using the main EVF, not the rear screen. So when shooting stills, I don't find the battery to be a big problem. I think the peaking and all of those things work great, and the stabilization is fantastic, but they're things that a lot of mirrorless cameras are offering. I think the punching in for focus confirmation works really nicely on this. And, you know, having shot with it for a week or two, I'm getting my head around what you have to when you're going from one platform to another. And I shouldn't say going from, I'm shooting with both. I don't have a plan to ditch Nikon, but wanting to go to 4K, this was a really attractive option for me. The downsides, and this is again coming from my background as a portrait photographer, an art nude photographer, and a travel photographer using the D810. So that's what I'm drawing my comparison to. It's slower. The Sony is slower. It's slower to start up. It's slower to start being able to take shots. It's slower to focus. Now, of course, focus speed depends a lot on the lens you're using. Say the Baatas lenses are surprisingly fast to focus. But I read something that Ming Then wrote and copped a whole lot of crap when he gave a really objective and, well, no, not objective, but a subjective opinion on the A7R II. And he used the term that I really love. It's like the whole camera's dipped in oil. It's not like really sluggish, but there's just this delay that you don't find with the DSLR. And another thing, it does, you can't get away from it, sometimes just give you a black screen and think for 5 or 6 seconds and become unresponsive. And I did miss shots on this trip because of that. And for me, that's a massive pain in the ass, and I really think that's an issue with this one, for me. The other one, the 4K does suck battery life like crazy. There's videos out there that are talking about the heat issues. I didn't find any heat issue. I didn't have it shut down during 4K even when shooting outdoors in sun, but I wasn't doing like half-hour shots and I didn't noticeably notice it getting hot, but that really sucks the batteries dry. On a big day of shooting, I could easily go through 3 or 4 batteries, but on a normal day, one was getting me through there in the way that I tend to shoot. One other thing I don't love about this camera, I'm doing this in post because I forgot it, the ISO still sucks. I read a lot of reviews, and in the past, you know, I've kind of revised my position on this. I now advocate using the lowest ISO possible. I read reviews where people are saying ISO 6400, 12800, whatever is usable. Keep in mind, usable is absolutely up to you and how you're going to use the files. For me, I really like to keep my cameras below 800, and I think it starts to look messy at even 1600 for what I shoot. But, you know, that said, it's about the same as the D810, maybe slightly behind. Just, you know, I try not to need it, but when you're stuck with f4 lenses instead of a 2.8, you know, that extra stop of ISO can really start to make things look nasty. Limited lenses on the market is a downside. Generally in the market, and for me specifically, I own a whole bunch of Nikon gear, having shot it for, you know, over a decade. I've built up a collection of what I use and love. For Sony, it's a newer system, so there's less stuff out there. Like I said, the 25 and 85 from Carl Zeiss, the Baatas lenses, are supremely good. But I don't have a comparable range of lenses. They have the 70-200, 24-70, and 16-35 all in f4s, but not in 2.8s yet. That's a downer. You can get an adapter to use their other ones, but then that is adding extra things you need to carry and getting bigger and bigger as you go. So I did find when I was at the festival and I wanted longer lens stuff, and when I really didn't want to be missing any shots, I was reverting back to using the D810, using my 70-200 and the 1.7 teleconverter, and I was really nailing shots with that, you know, if I were putting a teleconverter onto the f4, then I'm already a stop behind when we start off. The ISO button. I really dislike the position of the ISO button on this one. It's a hard button. It's not a customizable one. You can go through the function. You can set up other buttons to do ISO as well. But if you bump the right on the rear dial, that activates ISO, and it's really easy to switch it from auto to 50, which can have a big difference if you were planning to be shooting in low light and letting your ISO walk around, and you fix it at 50, then suddenly you're at shutter speeds you weren't expecting, or vice versa. I find, for the way I shoot anyway, the side of my thumb often bumps that button, and it can be a pain in the butt. I find, and it may take more customization to set it up, but I've used all of my custom buttons now and I use them often, but I reckon it could use 6 more, because coming from Nikon and being so familiar with it, again, I'm revealing my bias here, I find that a lot of things that I frequently want to do take an extra step to go into a menu, then turn something on, and then, you know, move your focus point, whereas in the Nikon it's just hold a button and then you're in there. For me, I find that at times when you're in the thick of things and you're trying to shoot fast and you're moving from different situations, indoor to outdoor to central point to multi-point, having to look at your camera, and it's a learning curve for me. I'm sure eventually I'll get to the point where I can keep my eye on the subject and make my changes, but for now I'm often looking away from the subject to make changes, potentially losing shots. That's a bummer. Okay, it doesn't have full uncompressed RAW yet, but I have to give them credit. A couple of days ago they've announced they're bringing 14-bit uncompressed RAW to the A7S II, and they're going to start rolling out to other cameras, the next one being the A7R II. So that's something. Why it wasn't there to start with baffles me though. For some, the fact that it only has a single card is going to be a downer. I tend to only shoot a single card anyway, so for me that's not a big deal. I so often read people saying, pros will only ever use 2 cards. Well, I'm not a pro then, because occasionally I will, but even for important stuff I generally don't. I'll have multiple backups, but the way I shooting and then backing up on the same day, I don't think I've ever had a card fail me on the day. I know some people have, but touch wood, touch sofa. Okay. That said, having gone through the pluses and the minuses, like I said, I use this way more than the Nikon on this trip. I like the portability, I like the form factor. When I was going out, I kind of liked the fact that I was shooting with the 16-35 and the 85 most of the time, and that then I could bring along, I shoot a lot with manual focus lenses, so being able to adapt stuff. I brought along Samyang tilt shift lens and a fisheye lens, and I use a lot of Zeiss lenses that are manual focus. Being able to just throw on a converter and use all of them as well, it's really nice. I went through a bunch of things I don't love about this, and when a camera's new, some people like to think of them as infallible and perfect, and oh my god, if I had that, everything in my life would be perfect. It's not. They're my opinions. That said, I really love the results I'm getting with this. Let me just show you a little gallery here of images I've taken here in Bhutan. Okay, I hope you like those images. Again, check out the link on screen if you're interested in joining me. Now, what I hope they will bring into the A7R Mark III, or if the rumors are true and an A9 is coming, what I would like to see, resolution and 4K are, high enough res as is. Maybe having different formats for the 4K would be great, but I would love to see it being slightly bigger and having a much bigger battery pack. The grip, I would love to see. This one has a unit that extends down into the body of the camera, replacing or displacing the battery. So you get 2 batteries in the grip, but none in the body. Whereas the Nikon ones, it's just got terminals that the grip touches on, so you can leave a battery in the camera, put 1 or 2 in the grip, and that would really help with this battery life. The grip is smart in that it'll use the battery that has the least power first to deplete it, so then you can go charge it before moving on to the higher charge one, but I don't see why having 3 batteries could be anything but a positive. I think, if you're going to go bigger, having the dual card slots for some people is going to be a big thing and will open the market up a lot. I think the pauses that I was talking about and the little hiccups and bugs in the software, if they're refined out, that in itself would be a big jump for me. Not having those delays, not having the inexplicable once a day or once every couple of days, just 5 or 10 seconds where it's thinking to itself and won't let me shoot. I can't tell you how annoying that is. I've never had that happen on my Nikons. Lenses, it's just going to take time. It's a new system, flashes, accessories, third-party stuff, and lenses is going to take time. It is coming. Their 35-1.4 is brilliant. The Bardus lenses are brilliant. I'm sure there's other ones on their way for Sony mount cameras. A lot of the third-party ones like Samyang are making their lenses in Nikon, Canon, and Sony, and Fuji, and all of those different mounts. So it's coming. It's just going to take a while. But for me, having some 2.8 quality zooms, to be honest, it's not so much the aperture. I can live with a 16-35 f4, no problem, but the quality could be better. And the 24-70, I don't like it. It distorts like crazy. So f4 or f2.8 I don't mind too much, but just better quality lenses in the zoom range would be a big thing for me. That's my overall thoughts. I hope that wasn't too talk heavy for you. And again, disclosing my bias, I'm a Nikon shooter and lover. I have no intention of stopping to shoot Nikon. I'm incorporating Sony into my bag. For some trips, having two Sonys would make more sense than one Nikon and one Sony, so I don't be carrying two different lens sets. And then having two Nikons for different jobs would make sense. But for this one, because I want to use this one that I've got and use it for 4K, that's why. That said, if I had had a high quality Sony 70-200 lens and teleconverter, I may have just brought along the Sony or two Sonys and left the Nikon at home. Isn't that something to think about? Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Let me know if you are using DSLR or mirrorless, if you started with DSLR and you're considering mirrorless, or if you've added mirrorless, or if you've completely changed to mirrorless. Love to hear your thoughts. Hi from Bhutan. I'll see you soon.